Harding. I am with Daybreak Ranch LLC, and I'm here with Whiskey today to talk with you all about having problems catching your horse. When your horse is hard to catch, it can be one of the most frustrating things to deal with as an owner, trainer, anybody that really works with horses. It can be one of the hardest things to deal with because usually we have our own agenda when we come to the barn, right? We want to catch our horse, we want to groom them, get them ready for riding, and get going on what our plans are for the day. But a lot of the times, that's one of the problems that our horses is trying to tell us when they avoid us, is that when we have our own agenda and our own thoughts and plans for the day, sometimes our horses aren't actually at the center of our thoughts. And when we're working with our horses, we want to make sure that whatever we do, we're trying to make it a good experience for them. So that's the other thing to keep in mind too. When your horse doesn't want to be caught by you, it's because that horse does not associate humans with a positive experience. Whiskey here used to be pretty hard to catch. When he came to Daybreak Ranch, when you tried to walk up to him, he would pin his ears and walk away. Oh, there's a fly. Which is a pretty clear signal of, hey, I don't want to be near the human. I think that as soon as this human comes near me, they're going to take me away from my happy place and we're going to start doing things that I don't like. It's really important for us as humans to not be offended by that type of behavior, but to take it as important feedback. So keep in mind, as I started working on Whiskey's catching problem, he was in a very big pasture. This pasture is about 6 to 7 acres, somewhere in between there, and he's in there with a herd. So there's nowhere that I can really pin him down and force him, which is something that we humans are really good at. Could I put him in a separate pen? Yes, but the problem psychologically with putting him in a separate pen is, even though he could be in a separate pen for the beginning of it, and he might learn if I were to run him around in circles in the pen that he's in until he turned to face me and wanted to be with me. That only means that when he's in his own private paddock, the only release from pressure that he finds when he has no other option is to be with a human. But then the problem will come right back a lot of the times when you put that horse back in the pasture, because all of a sudden that horse has another option to go to rather than being with the human. One of the best ways, I think, to go about fixing or solving a catching problem with your horse is to reevaluate, number one, how you go about your sessions when that horse is taken out of the pasture, because a lot of the times that catching problem won't solve if you just focus on the catching problem itself, because the horse doesn't want to be caught because they associate being taken out of the pasture with something negative. So if you continue to make being out of the pasture something negative for that horse, the catching problem will never get any better. But focusing today on just the catching portion of it, like what do you do when you walk out into the pasture and your horse pins their ears and walks away from you? Well, the way that I worked here with Whiskey is I paid attention to his herd mates at first. So I went out there with a bag of treats and I became the most popular person in the herd by feeding everybody else treats until Whiskey got curious and started to come over and ask for treats as well. And then as soon as I could give him a treat, because at first he didn't want to come near enough to me to get a treat, as soon as he got the first treat, I walked away, started feeding the other horses treats again, until he started getting more and more curious. So keep in mind that the goal for that day was not to go and catch Whiskey. So I did not bring out a halter either at that point, because the halter portion of it came later on when we had had a few sessions of this as well. So as soon as Whiskey started coming up to me regularly for treats and allowing me to just give him treats, then I would start using a little bit of positive reinforcement. And what I mean by that is every time he would come up and touch me, like touch my hand with his muzzle, I would make a noise and then give him the treat and start associating that noise with the treat. So every time he heard that noise, he started getting an endorphin release. So the first thing that I was able to touch on him was his face. And then when I touched his face, I would make that noise immediately and give him another cookie. And then I would keep rinsing and repeating that process until I was able to start touching him on the neck. And then I would just keep repeating that, where I would keep giving him the sound, the noise, and then giving him another treat. And then eventually we worked up to introducing the halter. And then every time he would touch the halter in my hand, which, keep in mind, when I brought out the halter, we pretty much had to start from square one again, because he went, oh no, you're going to catch me and put me in a position that I don't actually want to be in. So we kept building on that until I was again able to touch him in the neck area, where I would put the halter on, click, and give him the treat. And then slowly but surely he started to associate the halter with the treat, and he started to look forward to me coming into the pasture rather than dreading the human coming up to him, as thinking of it as something really, really negative. And on a side note, yes, on this video he's pretty pushy, but keep in mind, I would rather right now, because he didn't want to interact with humans at all when he first came, I'm not punishing this behavior at this point, because I would rather he want to interact with people. Because when Whiskey first came here, he didn't want to interact with people at all. He would rather not be haltered, he would rather not do anything, have anything at all to do with the humans. And so all this coming up and wanting to interact and touch me, I'm not going to punish that, because that would work us backwards in our training. Now, when he really, really grows confident in being handled by the human, because right now there are still some places on his body that he doesn't really give me permission to touch yet. When he's really, really confident and I feel like we've gained a stronger relationship and a stronger bond, then I will put my foot down a little bit and start putting some barriers in place. But right now at this stage it's not appropriate yet. Just as an FYI. So anyways, that is your tips and tricks for the day of Daybreak Ranch. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer and try to help you as you go. Thanks. A little bit pushy, but that's okay. Right now I'd rather him be a little bit more pushy as for the treats when he's with me, because he didn't really associate being around humans as something positive. Whoosh.